I don't know if you don't know already, but Marianne Williamson sees the House panel was the most arrogant, elitist, out of touch thing I've seen in recent times. You have Marianne Williamson, Crystal Ball, I forget this lady's name.
Furlano.
Julie Furlano, is that her name?
Linda Furlano or something, or Julie Furlano? Yeah.
Julie, okay. And Katie Halper and Brianna Joy Gray. I don't know about the other one, but all of the other ones that I do know of have money. They're stable. They don't have to worry about bills and working class things of that nature. And so the comments they made reinforce that. They reinforce that, because if you are a working class person and you have bills to pay and you don't have health care, and people keep telling you that voting for a progressive is going to change your life for the better, and these people keep coming to you with promises like, some fucking lover promising you the moon and the stars, and then they don't deliver, and they tell you no, it's okay, this time it'll be different. You're fed up. You can't do this anymore, because it's now costing you as a poor person money. They're asking poor people from the beginning of this whole fucking stream. They asked poor people to donate to seize the house. First of all, I don't know anything about where that money goes to, how it's distributed, like what? And who's at the helm of this? Oh, Crystal Ball and all of these people. Crystal Ball, who's dating Kyle Kulinski, who are the Justice Democrats, who was a complete and total just ripoff, where people were donating their hard-earned money for what? For what? What did you get out of the Justice Democrats? Literally, what did you get out of them? So now this whole grift has become, well, corporate Democrats aren't doing the job, so you have to donate to non-corporate Democrats. Okay, fine. So big business donates to corporate Democrats, but who donates to non-corporate Democrats? Oh, poor people. So you're taking money away from poor people. So these non-corporate Democrats don't do anything for poor people and still do the bidding of corporate Democrats. So you're really screwing poor people even more now, because you're giving them this false hope that they're going to do something. Just if they have one more person, if they have Nina Turner, if they have XYZ, it's going to be different this time. And you know what? It's just absolutely enraging to me. So let's just watch the first video.
And you want to give to them individually, feel free. Please don't think that any amount is too small, because a lot of people are watching right now. Your $5 does matter. Your $10 does matter, or however much you want to give. Up to $2,800 would be the legal. So you do what is right for you. Anything you give is appreciated. And I think when you hear these candidates tonight, you'll know why all of us have faith that if we get them to Washington, they'll change this country.
And I do think it's important, one thing you said there, which is that there are a lot of other this is not a comprehensive list tonight that you're going to meet of the great candidates that are out there. These are just the number that we could fit into this live stream. Mm-hmm. Bree, I wanted to ask you, we have all had our political hearts broken more than a time or two at this point. And there are a lot of folks out there, some of whom may be watching the stream right now, who say, you know what? I just don't believe this is going to work. I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to change. I believed in the squad. They haven't, we just saw AOC this week unwilling to even say a word against Nancy Pelosi in an interview. I just don't know that this direction is a fruitful use of time. And some people would even go further and say, in fact, by even backing people in Democratic primaries, you're sort of bolstering the Democratic Party and channeling people into a Democratic Party that does not deserve their support. So let me ask you.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, I don't know, it would have been cool to hear what she finish what she says, because Brianna Joy Gray basically goes on to mention that, she is partial to that argument that, why are you still doing this and blah, blah, blah. So they understand that this is they know that people are against this, that people are all you had to do was take 2 seconds to go to the chat or look at the comments that people wrote under this video to know that people were like, what the fuck are you doing? This is just ridiculous. This is so out of touch. This is so arrogant. This is so elitist. And it's this whole thing. Well, like Marianne says, like, well, we're doing something. Like, it's not that you're not doing anything. You're just doing the motions that have been done for decades. If this was 2017. By the way, Pasta and I in 2017, we did the same. We interviewed many candidates. We said, okay, let's give them a shot. It's 2017. It's right after Bernie. Let's see if we can get some people in Congress. Let's do this inside outside strategy. 2017, right? We interviewed candidates in Florida, in New Jersey, Jim Keaty in New Jersey. We had a list of candidates to watch. That
we had a whole day,
favorite.
fam. Remember, we had a whole day. It was candidate day. We started early in the morning. We went and we ended up with Soraya Foss, who was the one libertarian candidate. But all the other candidates before that were all these type of candidates, these grassroots candidates that are on this show. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
No, they were the same type of candidates. And guess what? They said the same things. And that was 2017. So fast forward 5 years later, you're giving me the same bullshit, the same type of candidates. Oh, the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is a corporate fucking fourth industrial revolution piece of legislation that is wrapped with privatization for the billionaires and this oligarchy. And it's not going to do anything to the environment. It's just going to exploit the activism for environmentalism, but it's not going to actually work to solve anything. And it's also not going to get passed in the way you guys think it's going to get passed. You have a majority in the House of Democrats. You have a progressive caucus of over 101 members that are completely and utterly useless because they don't do anything remotely progressive. And so you want more of that? And you think having more of that, and you think somehow these people that are talking with the same exact shit that the candidates that came in 2017 we're talking about are going to be any different than the squad? Really? Or do you just not care because guess what? Even if it doesn't work out, you'll be fine. And that's where I think this is at here. Because at the end of the day, Marianne, Crystal, Katie, all these people are going to be fine. And it's fine. This isn't a personal attack on them. I'm just telling you, you're going to be fine economically.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to lose. In fact, you do a stream like this, you have more to gain. Oh, look, like these are the progressives, influencers fighting for the working class, but none of them are working class.
Yeah.
So, okay.
That's what
it's just like, so
Reverend Annie Chambers.
It's a joke. Why? Exactly. It's like the poor people's movement having no working class leaders talking about what the working class needs. It's fucking ridiculous. Why don't you have any working class people on your streams? Why do you only go to who you think can get you the most views? Ooh, let's see who's an influencer who can get us the most views and the most connections. That's how it comes across. I'm not saying it's your intention, but I don't know. Who am I to say it isn't? Because that's how it comes across when you have a panel of, like Crystal Ball with her show, Brianna Joy Gray, you have Marianne Williamson who ran for office, and you have Katie Halper, and they have, on Useful Idiots, and they have all these shows and all these connections. None of these people are working class, and none of these people made any sort of effort to include working class voices. And the questions don't even, we're not even going to go that into the candidate section, really, but because I couldn't. I listened to it and I'm like, this is just regurgitation. But the questions these people ask, you're all journalists, right? I mean, the vast majority of you. Why are you asking such milquetoast general questions? Yeah. Why not ask
it's in the bubble
of where they stand on
It's the echo chamber, too. It's the echo chamber. It's what they want to hear. I do believe that.
I know you can ask better questions than that.
Of course. Absolutely, fam. But, when you look at these candidates, and I do believe that Nina Turner and Bernie Sanders were probably screwed over in their elections. I believe they had enough popular support where they should have won if the elections were fair. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of these candidates that they put up there would win, even if the elections were fair, because they just are virtue signaling with the Green New Deal and the Medicare for all. And it's just in what?
And COVID.
And COVID.
Status quo narratives on COVID.
Go to their websites, right? Like I went to a lot of people's websites who were on this thing. There's nothing about that election system on their website. Okay, let's go to the way. There's no foreign policy, fam. There's nothing about civil liberties and censorship. And it is, like you said, a complete capitulation to Big Pharma. And they never say how, what they're going to do. In other words, you get elected. How are you going to push these policies when you have Nancy Pelosi as the leader of your party? How are you going to do it? What are you going to do in your first 100 days? They just think if they scream louder against the machine and go, bad, bad, I'm calling you out, that they're going to get things done.
And they scream loud, and every single candidate up that we've had until this point screams loud. And the minute they get in, there's a whimper. And that's all you get from them, a fucking whimper. So you're not going to convince me to tell people, poor people, to put their money into something like this instead of putting their money into mutual aid, into organizing. Something like what the people are organizing in Canada, something that is an actual movement against, that literally seizes the means of production. Because a lot of these people consider themselves socialists, or at the very least leftist. But what are you doing to actually help the working class seize the means of production? Yeah. Is that even in your vicinity? Because you're not working class, though. How am I supposed to think that that's going to be your concern when you're not living what people are living? And so let's just play the next clip before, we continue.
On the show talking about the Forward Party and on and on and on. And I think it can be a both and, especially as those third-party efforts are getting on the ground. And there are candidates, at least one candidate tonight, who previously ran not affiliated with the Democratic Party, who's now running as a Democrat this time. And I look forward to asking her what that decision-making is about, because I've had people on my show who said, I would love to run third party, but here are the specific barriers to entry that I experience as someone who isn't as running as a Democrat. My inability to collect money through ActBlue and all these other kinds of things that are disadvantaging candidates that are already at a disadvantage because they aren't taking these corporate funds. It's a difficult question. It's something that I'm wrestling with, how much to invest personally and financially in different kind of candidates. But I don't think inaction is the best course of action. And so I hope that people are able to vet and consider what their options are via this panel tonight.
I think that's really well said. We don't have the luxury of inaction. I mean, we don't have the time to wait around and hope that there are better alternatives available. These are the pathways that are open right now where we can get some people who would participate in this conversation and have the very same viewpoints and the very same skepticism. And Juliana, I would say that
you don't have the luxury of inaction from a person that has a ton of money, a multimillionaire, if not more. We don't have you have the luxury of complete inaction, of completely just trying this over and over again, unknowing that it's not going to work. You have the luxury. How dare you talk to working class people when you sit on this fucking ivory tower that you're sitting on, and you pontificate to working class people that you clearly don't talk to on a daily basis, because if you did, you would understand that they don't give a fuck about voting in progressives or somebody, that they have 3 jobs to work, or that they lost their job, or that they're not getting paid as much as they used to, or that the working conditions suck because of COVID, or that they're going to lose their job because they're not vaccinated, or whatever the case may be tomorrow. It's just you're so out of touch, Crystal. And even Brianna saying this is better than inaction. Why does action only have to be voting for somebody? In fact, voting for somebody is the most minimal thing you could fucking do. The most minimal thing. Voting for somebody is just not at all nearly what you should be doing. It's just the littlest thing you could fucking do. What is to me an action is this is nothing. This is cosplay. This is theater. Action would be to actually form organized movements against the empire, to demand, to not stop, to organize fights against the current government, the Biden administration, to demand literally, okay, we need money. We need this, we need that, at the very least. And then I'm going down to the progressive level here as to what progressives want, right? To demand something from the Biden administration. That's the very least you could do. Now, if you want to go further, you look at the movement that's going on in Canada and you say, you know what, we agree that there shouldn't be mandates, but we also, in America, we want to do no mandates and we want to do no more expansion of the surveillance state. And we want to do, we want to do XYZ worker protections, like increase the wage or whatever. We want to do something that will give immediate tangible benefits. Oh, you want healthcare? Fine. But healthcare isn't tied to your choice about, whether you get vaccinated or not. Something like that. Something that could get people on both ends to support something like a single payer system, right? Because that's what people's emphasis is against Medicare for all. It's like, well, if the government's going to dictate if I get healthcare, then they're also going to dictate if I get vaccinated or not, right? Yeah. So like you talk to these people and you form these connections. What do you need the most? You put in money in mutual aid. You don't. That's action. Inaction is this. Inaction is just cosplaying like, I'm going to give my money to these candidates that may or may not win. But even if they do win, there's just going to be more of the same that's already there because we've already done this and it's failed and it's failed and it's failed. And you're asking poor people to donate, poor people that don't have anything, to put their money on a dream, on a fantasy that isn't going to happen because there is no path through electoralism right now. There is no path through electoralism.
Let me just say this much: I think it was unfair for her to say that I don't think inaction is okay. We're not talking about digressing to inaction. We're talking about a different action, okay? Because Oz said this the other day with his tweet when we brought it on the show last week with Hunter, when we were talking about this very same panel, doing the same thing over and over again, banging your head against the wall. Once again, isn't that the actual definition? When you expect different results, isn't that the actual definition of insanity? This is insane that they're going to continue to try to do this when the DNC admitted in a courtroom that they can go into the back room and pick whoever they want. You're not going to change it from the inside, just like you're not going to change the mafia from the inside. Yeah. But let me bounce something off you, fam, because I heard somebody also go, well, they're running third party. They ran third party before. Now they're running as a Democrat. And I'd like to hear a little bit about that. How about not even run third party? Don't you hear all those Bernie people came like, I'm a Bernie supporter. I'm going to support this person to run in the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders won as an independent. Let me do it like Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders won as an independent.
Yeah.
You can run as an independent.
Now, and you could. I mean, at the very least, if you want to continue, pretending that our elections are fair, run as an independent. Show people how unfair our elections are. Because I think people still don't get it. I mean, these people especially don't get it. They still think we have a fair election system. It's hard for me to even go there, Pasta, because it's like I have to like literally go down several levels now. These people still think that our election system is fair and just, and that you can elect people fairly. Oh, but third parties don't have a chance. So you're admitting that we don't have a fair election system. Otherwise, third parties would have a chance. But okay. So we have a semi-fair election system. So okay, you can't run as a third party. You run into a lot of things. They keep you out of the mainstream media. They do all these things to you. So why are you going to continue to reinforce the same system that does this? That stops people from running. Why would that system allow anything remotely plausibly as a threat to the establishment? And why would you think that? Why?
Well, here's the thing too, is sometimes when you win, you lose. And sometimes when you lose, you actually win. Yes, the election system is so fraudulent. It's so bad, the whole system itself. And I would suggest anybody, who's going to run as an independent immediately once they call the results to protest those elections in every single area to try to shine a light on it. Literally, I would ask 10 requests from everything to seeing the chain of custody of the ballot movements to the ballot images to when they were everything. But that's beside the point. I think that if you're going to run, you're not necessarily running to win, but you're running to see if you can get a debate about debate with these people, to see if you can get them on stage. I mean, Tim Canova was able to get one debate with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Shahid Buttar still hasn't found a way to get Nancy Pelosi on that stage, but you can elevate the message by running against these people as an independent and have just as much movement from other types of actions, with other actions that are non-electoral by running. So there is some benefit to run, not knowing that you're not going to win. And besides the point, even if it was a fair election, fam, it took Bernie Sanders like 3 or 4 times before he eventually won. It took Harvey Milk about 4 or 5 times before they won. You know what I'm saying? All these guys, it takes them a couple times. So for people to just cut tail and run, go, I ran third party, it doesn't work, I got to run as a Democrat. It's also a dumb idea. Not to mention, I don't even know what criteria they use when they're picking these candidates. Again, like we said, the virtue signaling isn't going to get anything done. If you're going to try to run for office, you got to represent people who don't think like you, who think differently than you. How are you going to represent them? And that's never brought to the table. All these candidates, all they do is virtue signal for the fucking progressive ideology that they like and nothing else. And that's also a problem.
And it's such a minority. You're talking to like a dozen people. You're talking to such a minority. You're not expanding your audience. No wonder. You're not expanding your audience. You're just a robot regurgitating the same exact slogans. Green New Deal, Medicare for all, blah, 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 living wage. Okay, but how are you going to get that one? And beyond that, what exactly are you, why are you ignoring the giant elephants in the room? The COVID pandemic, foreign policy, and how that's affecting us right now.
Civil liberties, censorship.
All civil liberties, the surveillance state. I'm sorry, you guys have a panel and you invite candidates that are completely ignoring that, either on purpose because they're scared of what, you know, the progressives are going to think, or because they really don't touch on this. They're going to be voting on that way more than they are on the Green New Deal, Medicare for all. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I like, really? And then you get mad when they don't, like, hello, what did you expect? You guys didn't hold them accountable on these issues. You don't care about foreign policy. These people don't give 2 shits about foreign policy or U.S. imperialism. Then they go online on Twitter and they're like, wow, yeah, the U.S. is an empire and we're clutching our pearls as to, I can't believe Biden is such a terrible president. But how do you, like, what do you expect when you don't demand better? And like, you put these people out to just recite slogans. Anybody can go out there and recite. So I could go out there right now and pretend to be, a milquetoast progressive candidate and recite the same slogan and get, praised by the AOCs of the world and just continue, taking people's money. I could do that. Anybody could fucking do that. Yeah. But what is that going to get you? It's not going to get the working class anything. It's not going to do anything for anybody but yourselves and your ego. Like, it's really,
and it's so crazy that they're afraid to step out of this progressive bubble, like Shahid Buttar and Jason Call and whatnot. Like, step out of this progressive bubble. I went and looked at that District 2 in Washington, right? And he was like less than 3,000 votes away from winning the jungle primary, lost it to the Republican who finished second place. But you only want to talk about your progressive issues and you don't want to step outside your bubble. I looked at the Republicans' webpage, who finished second in the general election to the establishment Democrat. He has ending homelessness and mental illness on his page. There is cross-border, cross-partisan agreements there that you can really purge off of and get independence if you would only have the balls to step out of the progressive bubble. The balls. Yeah. How many people in Nancy Pelosi's district can't stand her? And if Shahid Buttar would go and talk about elections or talk about something that's not in the progressive bubble, he would gain votes. But they're so afraid to. They're afraid to step out of that progressive bubble. Enough is enough, gentlemen. Step out.
Have the balls
lose some people,
step out.
But you'll gain some people.
You'll gain
a
so
lot
many
more.
You'll gain so many more.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's continue because we could talk forever, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Activist movements, activism on the ground. We've been pushing the people who are in there, and we need people who are in there who understand what activism is, takes it seriously, and are willing to be pushed.
Yeah. Well, if you look at Black Lives Matter movement, it's the largest protest movement that's ever existed in the history of our country. And it has not been followed by one major fundamental legislative change. So a lot of these people aren't pushable. I mean, as long as you have the kind of undue influence of corporate money that you have in our Congress right now, a lot of these people who are there, particularly these people who have been there for 10, 20 years, they don't really care that much how much pressure is being placed upon them.
Okay, well, that was a quick clip. All I have to say on that clip is this has been tried. They're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement and how that, that took a while. And this has been tried forever. If you think about it, a lot of people are calling AOC the Nancy Pelosi of this generation because Nancy Pelosi was talking about universal health care in the late 80s and the early 90s. She was literally, there are videos of her that we have seen of her talking about it. And here's AOC again, decades later, talking about it. And she admitted, well, we may not get universal health care till, my daughter's 30. What? Are you fucking kidding me? Do you know why these people don't act? Because you continue to vote for them. You continue to put people in your party, and you continue to act like that's going to somehow destroy any sort of, empire, that it's going to be some sort of a threat. You're not threatening at all. You're actually being used as tools to continue enforcing and strengthening the current empire. That's all these people are doing.
Yeah. Let's roll to the next clip, because we could just talk about this all day long. And we did this segment so you can get your opinion out, because you didn't get the chance to do it. So let's roll the next video, and we'll see what's what.
Ready. Just one other thing I wanted to add is that I think that I'd much rather be disappointed by more progressives in power than try to act within the world in which we live right now, where there aren't that many. I feel like we've skipped a step a little bit. And even people who, not to sound like a Leninist, but even if you have that perspective, there is something that's known as a political education. And in order to even learn that electoral politics aren't the way forward, we have to go through the step of having more progressive elected. Then you can say that's
or from within.
Friends of mine who are very critical of electoralism right now, many of whom shows you probably watch, often note that they were radicalized through the Bernie 2016 or 2020 campaigns, and that they will acknowledge that they learned a lot about what to fight for and how to fight for it through those processes. So even though I have a lot of respect for people who say, maybe I don't want to even give money, that's a very different thing from divesting from the process and following and getting to know these candidates. So I'm glad we're all here.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Fammy, even if we get disappointed by the progressives, we got to still knock our head against the wall. Come on, fam.
I would rather be more disappointed by the progressives than, a corporate Democrat or Republican. Why? Why? It's the same. You're still being disappointed.
Team sports.
It's the same shit. That statement right there is the epitome of the progressive movement. This is what we're talking about when we talk about the cappuccino communists. It's about feeling better about yourself. It's not about material conditions being better. It's about you feeling better about yourself. And it's a very elitist and arrogant standpoint, because she says, the material conditions that we're living in, right? I'd rather live in the material condition. Not that she doesn't even say material conditions. She says in the actual, whatever. She says in the conditions that we're living in. She says, pay attention to, I'd rather live in the real world, in the reality of what's happening. But you're not living in the real world, because you don't live in the working classes world, where the reality is much different than somebody who doesn't have to deal with not having health care, who doesn't have to deal with not being able to pay their rent, who hasn't, what reality? You're living in a fantasy world where you think that voting more progressives in that aren't even challenging at all, that are milquetoast as fuck, that aren't talking about the fourth industrial revolution. They're not talking about medical tyranny. They're not talking about the surveillance state. They're completely in line with the status quo, with the whole agenda. They're completely in line. And you know what? And you think that that's living in reality? No, you're living in the fantasy created for you by the State Department, the mainstream media, and this global tyranny that's happening. And that's who's living in a fantasy. We're living in reality, which is why we're the way we are. Because it does stem from this place of classism, where you can afford. If I was well off and I didn't have to really understand what's happening here and how the poor are there's a war being waged on poor people right now. Sure. Yeah, let's give my money to. Let me make a fun, feel-good little panel about how, yay, oh my God, we all agree with each other. We're so great. We're all in complete agreement as to how we're going to vote more progressives. And yay, let's feel good about ourselves. We did our part for the poors. We tried. Look, we did. That's how it comes across. That's how it comes across. I'm so sorry, but that's how it comes across. And if you want to debate me on this, any of you, feel free.
Well,
because again, multiple times people have asked several of these people to have me on their shows. Guess what? They don't.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Well, we said the other day that Ben and Rania can come on the show anytime they want. I said it in a tweet yesterday. The Vanguard can come on the show anytime they we said the other day, right, Oz? We told Jason Call or Shahid Buttar, you want to come on the show anytime you want. You know what I'm saying?
I'd like you to get
the Sharks.
I'd like you to get. They can hear me. I would love to have you have Brianna Joy Gray and Katie Halper on, because they were on a damage control podcast with Brianna Joy Gray on Sunday. They had CJ Compton J on. He killed it. He was absolutely right on electoral politics, and we need Compton J's voice, Eric and Courtney's voice out there too. It's just a shame that more of those call-ins didn't get in to support Compton J and the rest of them that were right on track on electoral politics. You guys should have been on that panel to help balance it out and back up CJ. I believe you would 100%. Thanks for letting me.
Let me say something, Oz. They're gonna have those people on because they have to, because otherwise, oh well, we can't deny Black people a voice to have to talk about these things, right? Like they have to. Like, and I'm glad that Compton J. I love Compton J. I'm glad he was on there. But again, there are things that I talk about, that Posse talks about, that they will never allow on their shows because they're scared of that ruining their progressive fucking little bubble, their progressive cred. We can't talk about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We can't talk about, Klaus Schwab. We can't talk about how these mandates are literally affecting the working class, how these mandates are complete total just overreach of the surveillance state. We can't talk about these things because those things are now deemed right wing. We can't talk about elections. We can't talk about elections because elections are now a right wing talking point. And so they care more about how their perception is, but they're more than what they care about actually letting people into talking about the truth. Because otherwise, like I said, they've had plenty of opportunities to reach out and they haven't done it. And of course, everybody's welcome to talk on our show. We always say that. Say that.
It's not only progressives that would avoid this show there, Oz, and everybody out there. Tulsi Gabbard won't come on the show right now. I bet you better believe that she ain't coming on this show. So she was on the show before. Open invitation. We got them all there. Open invitations. Anybody wants to go. We don't run. We don't hide.
That's your badge of honor.
Do we have any more clips?
Guys,
what's that?
That's your badge of honor. You need to keep that up. The number one reason why I'm helping Convo Couch and our sisters and brothers like Misty and Franco is because you guys are telling the truths that are unpopular, that get shit thrown at you 100% of the time, and that is your badge of honor. The day you stop doing that, I'm out of here, but I don't believe you guys are the character cut from that cloth that you would stop. You're going to go down fighting, and if we could get that from these privileged individuals that you've been talking about all day, I'd have a heart attack. It would be unbelievable. Sorry,
Please don't have a heart attack.
I had to. Well, I'm too ornery to have a heart attack. But continue. Sorry, this topic just burns me down because it's so apparent. So anyway, continue. Sorry, guys.
You know what burns my ass, Oz? A flamethrower about 3 feet tall. Anyways, do we have another clip?
Yeah.
Nobody got that joke? That was all right. Whatever.
I didn't get it. Sorry.
What burns my ass? A flamethrower 3 feet tall. Play the next clip. Jesus. I guess I got to be standing.
What does being a socialist mean to you? And how does that shape your politics? And is that something that resonates with your community?
Being a socialist to me means that you fight for working people, you fight for middle-class families, and you absolutely reject working for the corrupt ruling rich. And so really it's about power in the hands of people. I think that message is doing really well in our community. There's a lot of pundits, academics that try to say, hey, in a majority Latino district like yours, they're not progressive, they don't have all these high ideas, they're not woke. The reality is that those people are sitting behind their desk for too long in their offices. Working people want to hear a politician step up and actually address the struggles they're facing on a day-to-day basis. They want to hear somebody that's willing to fight for their access to healthcare, somebody that's willing to fight against the rich and powerful because they're fed up both with Nancy Pelosi and with Mitch McConnell. And they want to know that they're going to be able to support and be a part of something different.
Okay, so, it's not bad what he said. I mean, working people do want politicians to go and actually let's talk to them. But the problem is you have to be specific. And it's so general and so vague. And it's the same things that we have heard for years now. I literally say this for years because we've been doing this for years now. And it's the same thing we did for years. In fact, some of the candidates we interviewed before were even more specific about the things that they were wanting, right? And I forgot to touch up on a point that Bree said from before was when she said that first of all, he said access to healthcare. Stop with the access to healthcare. Like access to healthcare means to me, you're not going to fight for universal healthcare in any way, shape, or form. You're willing to combat to give into that. But anyway, so I forgot to address this point that Bree said when she said that people got radicalized from the Bernie movement, right? That a lot of people learned what happened, like got into politics from the Bernie movement, and that's true. A lot of people, including myself, like after Bernie Sanders ran, but it wasn't just the fact that he ran and it was great and all of that. Like it was the fact that he was cheated. It was the fact, like, dude, that like they rigged it. Like that's, I don't know about you, Pasta, but that's what did it for me. I mean, the fact that you saw the empire for what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. They admitted it. They admitted it in a court. They admitted it. And by the way, if you pull up Mr. Ortega's campaign page, and it just makes me laugh when he goes, I got to push back against this corrupted corporation, fascistic, leaders here, politicians and stuff. Mr. Ortega, you're running to join a party that is fascistic, corporate, and authoritarian. And if you look up your issues page, once again, it's the same thing. Housing, environment, within the environment section, Green New Deal is there, immigration rights, education, healthcare, economic prosperity. Not to say that these aren't important, because they very much are, but there's no mention of foreign policy. You're running for Congress, right? And you don't want to talk about foreign policy? Nothing about censorship, nothing about civil liberties, nothing but about medical tyranny. It's within your own bubble. It just comes off to me because there's no way. It's just saying that we got to get all these things straight, but no plan on how we're going to get them straight. How are you going to do it? It's just slogans. A big giant virtue signal.
Yeah, exactly. It's just slogans, and that's all they do. And you're not going to get any of these things unless you pay attention to the other things that we're talking about here. The surveillance state and imperialism. If you don't pay attention to that, you're not going to get these domestic issues here at all. And that's the point, because you are trying to get into this corporate party, this fascistic party that is refusing, denying people those things while simultaneously promoting war abroad and promoting a mass increase in surveillance on the American people and on foreign nations abroad. And you're going to go into Congress and you're going to vote on legislation that you're not even going to read. And it just tells me you're going to be more of the same. Yeah. You're already telling me, but without saying anything, you're going to be more of the same. So why the hell would we waste our money on candidates like this too? On top of the fact that we shouldn't even be doing this. Yeah. The candidates that they're picking are just so like milquetoast. They're
it's
so
the
like
shit.
status quo. It's
the emotional left. They're going for the emotional left. Can you imagine if Al Capone, when he was put on the stand, whatnot, and they said, "Why are you part of the mafia?" And he would have said, "Well, I'm trying to change it to better for good from the inside, so I had to join." I mean, that it's like you're saying. You're saying, you can't change the mafia from the inside. Like, but you're going to change the Democratic Party from the inside. Get out of town.
But it's also just the fact that, look, like we did get radicalized from the Bernie movement, but because he got cheated. So we understand he got cheated. We understand that we don't have fair elections. So we're here. Why are you guys still stuck in 2016? Why are you guys still stuck there? Like, Bernie was cheated twice. And some of them won't even say that. They won't even say that in 2020 it was rigged, but it was. He was cheated twice. We studied elections. We literally went into every single, like as many precincts as we could in LA. We have proof. We studied the general election. We've talked about why people felt the way they did. We've talked about, COVID and how that has been completely just painted in a way it really isn't, how it's been misconstrued to the public. The public has been gaslit. We've talked about foreign policy ad nauseum and how that is directly our foreign policy is our domestic policy. But these people are still here not talking about those things.
Yeah.
And of course, we're definitely not touching the surveillance state because that is just some like right-wing libertarian bullshit.
Yeah. Klaus Schwab is just a villain on a James Bond movie, according to them. But, you know, it'd be a good, interesting exercise for anybody out there. Take a look at the candidates that are on the Seize the House panel over here. Go do their Twitters and see what they're saying about Ukraine and Russia. Go ahead and report back to us. Let me know. I guarantee you're going to see diddly squat. You ain't going to, they might not even address it. You know what I'm saying? And you literally have some of these candidates there that will tell you, well, I don't pay attention to foreign policy, fam, because right now we need to handle our own problems at home first. Then we can worry about what we do abroad.
You should be nowhere near Congress. Nowhere near. Stay the fuck away from Congress then.
Yes.
Because we already have enough idiots that don't pay attention to foreign policy, like 95% of our Congress. No, I'm sorry, more. Like 98%. So please.
Go away. Do we have another clip? Oh, we clipped out. We got one more. Here we go.
Really made moves on is trying to protect the profits of Big Pharma. So we're calling them out and we're challenging them on that record. And when people in this district hear about that record, they're ready to move on.
Great.
Let's go look at his right now. Let's go look at Mike Ortega. Is that his name? Look at his Twitter right now. I'm going to go see right now. Is he talking about a Big Pharma? He mentioned Big Pharma. Did he mention Big Pharma only to use it against his opponent, or has he really called out Big Pharma for what they've been doing? Come on, ladies and gentlemen, just go. And if you go there right now, if you follow him, you have a chance to be his 1,000th follower. And tell me if it says anything about Big Pharma. Oh, there's a picture of him and Nina Turner. That makes me feel good, right? There's more of that. I don't see anything. I got to go through it, but fam, nothing's jumping off the page. Pramila, the same stuff. I don't see anything Russian.
Yeah. So okay.
Nothing.
So this is where I go back to. These people think, and this is what Katie said. It's better to be let down by progressives than others. So it's better to be let down by the people that you shouldn't be letting you down. Like I'm sorry. I think it's worse. Isn't it worse to be let down by people that working people voted in with their money that or supposedly voted in, that working people, did all this work to try to get in somehow in this fucking chaotic, unfair electoral system. Perhaps they were let in for that specific reason because they're not going to be a threat to the establishment. But okay, let's say that, for sake of this argument that they were these people were voted in, and so these progressives, and you put in all this work and effort to get them in, and then they let you down. It's better to be let down by them than by a Republican who you didn't expect anything from, than by a corporate Democrat that you didn't expect anything from. Why is it better? It's worse because you're putting all your faith and your work and your emphasis on these people, and they're not doing anything. And all of these candidates are telling me they're just going to be more of the same. They're going to join the club, join the squad. The squad is a club, and we ain't in it. And that's the reality. These people still think Democrats and progressives are better than Republicans. Guess what? You're being duped by an illusion. There is no difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. At the end of the day, there is no difference. The difference is that they portray our cultural war bullshit. They go on and they spew and they talk about Roe v. Wade. The Republicans come out and try to take it away, and the Democrats come in and try to save it, even though the Democrats could have protected it long ago. But they didn't because they know that they can fundraise off of it. So this is the game they play, and you all fall for it. And you all still think that Democrats are better. At the core, this is what we were addressing yesterday with the dissenter pod. These leftists think that the Democratic Party is better at some point. That it's not as fascistic at all. They don't even call it fascist. That it's still okay. You're talking to me that the Joe Biden party, the party of Joseph Biden, the 1994 author of the crime bill, who literally worked with Strom Thurmond, who a fucking racist. Like, you're telling me that guy, that party,
Bam, we're gonna move him left,
is not a fascistic party, is not equitably as fascistic as the Republican, just because the Republicans tell you outright how they feel versus the Democrats. I mean, you're still there. You haven't really moved. You say you have, but no, you still put them on you elevate them a little higher, and that's what it comes down to. We don't. So for me, you might as well be having, a lot of people are mad because Tulsi Gabbard's going to speak at a Republican conference. So it's okay for AOC to speak at a Democratic conference? It's okay for to me, they're the same. I don't give a shit. They're still politicians. They're all going to speak for whatever gets them whatever political needs they need. But at the end of the day, it's a two-party illusion because you live in an oligarchy where we don't have a fair election system, where the surveillance state is expanding, where we're jailing journalists like Julian Assange for exposing U.S. war crimes, where we're censoring people, where we're smearing people for going against the ridiculous COVID narrative that is crumbling before our eyes. That's the reality that we're living in. That's the real world that people are living in right now, where they're being ostracized by their family members because they're not vaccinated, where they're being segregated from certain spaces because they decided not to take an injection. Because for what that we're in an era where we have the left cheering for war with Russia, because some idiot like Kai Kalinsky told them, "Hey, Putin is invading Ukraine." Like this is the reality we're living in, and where people aren't even paying attention to that. They're tuning out because they feel like there's no way to change this, that politicians aren't going to change your life, that no matter who's in power. And homeless people have told us this, people who are unhoused, people that we talk to, because we do go out in the streets and we do cover things on the ground, which I haven't seen any of these people do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm glad you're going off. I was listening the whole time, but I just got to say something like, I went on Mike Ortega, is that his name, for Congress? Nothing whatsoever on foreign policy, nothing whatsoever on, nothing about foreign policy on his webpage. Went to his Twitter, nothing about Russia and Ukraine. I got to give it up to Amani Oakley. Wasn't crazy about her webpage when I originally saw it, but at least she made a comment talking about neo-Nazis in the Ukraine, is paying attention to it. So, for the most part, though, they're just usually void of talking about anything foreign policy whatsoever, because it's not a popular subject whatsoever. But, I always ask, candidates too, as well, when I see them in the streets or I talk to them, well, how are you going to pay for things? You know that the biggest budget, the most of the money we spent is on the Pentagon budget. So if you address the fact that we also, these useless wars, these endless regime change wars that we spend all this money on, can be used for every single social program at home, maybe that would be a good avenue to talk about those things. That's what I tell them.
Learn MMT.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
I said learn MMT because that's what they're going to tell you.
Oh, God. Stop it.
But, okay. So, by the way, I have to point out Rebecca Parsons, I think she ran as an independent before or something, or is it Green? One of those two. We interviewed her and Jason Call years ago. And they, Rebecca was one of the better candidates, and she still sounded a little bit better than everybody else. But again, they're not talking about all these other things that we're talking about. Not at all. They're not touching on them because, there's a certain, label that you get painted once you start talking about these things. But fuck those labels. You guys have to break through this. This is not the same climate as 2016, as 2017, This is not the same climate. We're in a different climate right now. Move on, change your tactics. If it's not working, change your tactics, change your strategy. Because at the end of the day, the people aren't with you right now. I talk to people all the time outside of politics, people who are not political. And literally, we all agree that there are problems. We talk about the COVID, we talk about what's happening with the inflation, we talk about what's happening in the economy, and they all agree that everything is shit right now. So why don't you talk to those people? Why don't you make these connections with these people? It's really not that hard. And at the end of the day, that is what has to be done in order to have any sort of movement. You can't just label people who aren't left enough for you, or who don't know, don't read theory. And this whole thing, where you have to have a political education. These people don't have time to have a political education right now, Katie, because they're fucking poor and they have other things on their mind, like paying their rent and getting their kids medication,
putting food on the table, or
not being able. Where are they going to take their kids at if their kid has to stay at home more, or if their kid has to go to school, and what they're missing, and the trauma that's undergoing for kids because of the lockdowns and because of the mask and all this stuff. All of these things that are upon American families, none of that is being addressed. None of that. It's like that doesn't exist.
Touch.
So out of touch.
Out of touch.